Hello, guys. How's everybody doing? I don't know if you guys have did your Christmas shopping, but you only got a few more days left. Well, so if you have not done your Christmas shopping, you are running out of time because this is the 22nd and you got today, tomorrow, the 23rd, and the 24th. And y'all know the stores will probably be closing a little bit early. So make sure you get out there and get your shopping taken care of. Now, we spoke about the Epstein files and them being released, but there was a minor infraction with the Epstein files being released. They were released late. And something that we probably knew was going to happen, all of the files were not released. In fact, the DOJ is saying that the files are going to be released over several weeks, which is a problem because it's, kind of like obstruction of justice, because when you're told to do something and you just don't do it, and then you do it, but then somehow files are missing that implicate, and I won't even say it implicate because we don't know what it implicates, but pictures were missing of Donald Trump. And here's the deal. The reason that we know the files were released because these were already released from the estate. But of course, there's an administration there who just lack common sense. Okay. So what they did was they removed files that had already been provided by Jeffrey Epstein's estate. So now it's like, are we supposed to believe this shit? So let's kind of get into what I'm referring to. And I know I touched on this before. Okay. Actually, this is kind of jumping ahead. So let's go to this. One of the issues with the files, I mean, you guys can see this. What does this even say? Now, I get they are supposed to, you know, don't show us the victim's name. But in a case like this, the only thing they would have needed to do was that they, in fact, just cover up the victim's name. But an entire document, this is a little bit alarming. And if you guys have read some of the comments on social media, we're all thinking the same thing. This seems like corruption at its finest. This really seems like they're trying to protect Donald Trump, because I guess I don't understand why they are retracting an entire document. Like, look at this. And somebody made a comment on social media basically saying, well, maybe they stopped releasing the files because they ran out of black ink. Because this entire, look at this document. You can be a sixth grader to understand that this is not it. Like, everybody is like, this is clearly obstruction of justice. Why did they block out the entire document? We're supposed to see everything within the documents, with the exception of a victim's name. Every time that victim's name is released, all they had to do was black it out. But when they black out an entire document, y'all, it's something to be said about this right here. They don't want to get Trump in trouble. And it seems like they're hiding more than we know as the public, because why is this entire document blacked out? Like, this is clearly an obstruction of justice. They were supposed to provide all of the documentation. And also, here's another spin to this. I researched it. For everything they block out, they're supposed to provide clarification. This is a lot of damn clarification. This is a lot of clarification that they're going to need to provide, which I'm sure they won't. Now, again, another document. What is this? This is the entire page. So are you telling me that this entire page is full of victims? Well, I mean, let's just use our common sense. If the entire page was full of victims named, then what the hell were they even saying? Because you would have to say something first, then you would have to include the victim. So is this entire page full of victims' names? Like, this doesn't even make any sense. This is clearly a cover-up. Like, we're not stupid. We were not born yesterday. Where is the narrative here? Like, what are you saying? Are you saying all victims after victims after victims? Where's the part where you did not mention all of these victims? And for this to be a page full of victims, yeah, this just doesn't add up. So this is an example of what they have provided, which, again, you don't have to be smart to figure out this is clearly a cover-up. So did they really? I need to, what y'all think? Y'all think maybe they didn't release them because they ran out of ink? Because it really seems that way. This doesn't even make any sense. Another one. Now, one of the things that they were supposed to do is they were supposed to make this file searchable. And let me kind of give you an example. By the files being so huge, I guess some people may sit there and read the entirety of it. But what they were supposed to do, as you guys can see, you were supposed to be able to type a name, obviously not a victim, because you are not supposed to be able to see the victim's information, but you are supposed to put in a name and it bring you up every document with that person's name. What you guys are seeing here is a creator said, just try to search for Trump's name in the Epstein Files library on the DOJ website. You'll be shocked to learn that there's no mention of him whatsoever. How? We know that Donald Trump was with Epstein. We know that Donald Trump was friends with Epstein. You can go on Google and find those pictures. So you're telling me that Donald Trump's name is nowhere in the Epstein files? Yeah, that is a clear cover-up, because we know that Donald Trump is in the Epstein files, because we can go to TikTok and find interviews of Epstein where he mentioned that him and Donald Trump were friends. In fact, Donald Trump said that they were friends at some point, but what he said was he cut Epstein off because Epstein stole people. And if you kind of think about that, how does somebody steal a person? You know what I mean? Like, what Donald Trump said was Epstein took people from him. And if you really think about that, the entire phrase and how he phrased it really sounds creepy, because how can you steal a person? Okay, that just doesn't make any sense. But this doesn't make a lot of sense with what they have provided in terms of these Epstein files. And people are starting to pay attention because they like, wait a minute, this does not add up. The entire entire document is missing a lot of information. So we know that they missed the deadline. We know that they provided us a bunch of BS. Another thing, guys, with regards to the Epstein files, and we kind of spoke about this part in terms of, Donald Trump's name being redacted from the file. Well, again, I'm not the only one, that was able to figure this out, because this is all over Baller Alert. Like, Trump's name gets redacted in real time from the Epstein files after being missed. So let me kind of tell y'all what is being stated. They're saying that Donald Trump had 1,000, not one, not two, not 25, not 50, 1,000 people working on the Epstein files. And guess what their job was? If you can guess it, put it in the chat. They're saying that they had 1,000 people working on the Epstein files, not looking for the victim's name, not making sure, that they don't accidentally put the victim's name out to the public. But they're saying that Donald Trump had 1,000 people. Now, these are agents, people that make a lot of money, to go through the files to redact his name. This is the dude that you all hired, because I would never vote for somebody with 34 felonies, with multiple baby mamas, with charges all over the state. Now, I would never vote for a multiple baby daddy, because that's exactly what he is. So this man paid people overtime on the taxpayers' money to redact his name out of the Epstein files. And because he's uneducated and he's a college dropout, for some reason he think we all stupid. But if he's actually the only one stupid. And unfortunately, his administration and him makes him look very, very guilty, okay? Because they have redacted his name. Now, this is an example of one of the documents that, and let me kind of explain it to you all, because some people may say, well, how do you guys know that Donald Trump's name was redacted? So, because they did not provide the files, what the Democrats did, because of course, that the Republicans are not working for the American people, they are actually working for Donald Trump. So because the Democrats really don't, I shouldn't say they don't care, but I will say they don't care who's in the files. Whoever is in the files are in the files. This is not a Democrat or Republican thing. So what the Democrats did is went to Jeffrey Epstein's estate, and they obtained a lot of information from the Epstein estate. However, that information is being released at different times as well. So here's a document where you clearly see Donald Trump's name in, but what ended up happening is these same documents were provided by Donald Trump's administration. But guess what, y'all? You can see Donald Trump's name in his document. When they provided the documents, Donald Trump's name was not there. So it's not like you have to be extremely smart to figure this out. I mean, all you have to do is compare the documents that were provided by the Trump administration, and then they can just compare that with documents that were provided. Example number 2. Okay. You see this document that was provided by them. Let me go backwards. Maybe you guys can see it. You can see Donald Trump's name there. Well, this is what they provided. You see, Donald Trump's name is taken out. Okay. So this is why everybody is saying that Donald Trump, um, his name is being edited out of these files because they are comparing it, which makes it a crime. Okay. This is a crime, which is really crazy that these people are going out of their way to protect a man that really don't give a damn about them. Only thing Donald Trump cares about is his own self and his own family. You guys can actually go to Google. You can literally Google this. Donald Trump has been in office this second time for almost a year, and you would be surprised how his family has gained billions of dollars while the average person is still struggling, either trying to find a job or trying to buy food or even trying to pay rent, while he is making billions of dollars and not even doing one of the things that he said he would do once he was elected. So people voted for this scumbag thinking, I don't know why they thought that, because I never thought that he was going to be anything different than the scam artist that he was the first time. Well, this is just a clear example of, one of the documents that they highly redacted, removing Donald Trump's name. So what's going to happen? We don't know. I mean, the next administration could definitely come and prosecute, which is absolutely crazy because we've saw this story before. I mean, Donald Trump, once he left office before, he was convicted of 34 felonies. So it's really strange that yet again, Donald Trump in his crazy administration is doing the same thing yet again, as if we didn't see this story play out. Now, I want to show you all something else, okay? Because not only was Donald Trump's name redacted out of those documents, okay, his pictures were removed. Now, this photo file, number 468 from the Epstein Files, that includes Donald Trump, has apparently now been removed from the DOJ website. Now you see somebody is adding Miss Pam Bondi, who is Donald Trump's, she doesn't work for the American people either. She works for Donald Trump. Okay. Now they're like, okay, Pam Bondi, what happened to this picture and what else is being covered up? Because as we can see in these photos, we see Donald Trump. But unfortunately, when they release these files, guess what, y'all? Donald Trump's picture was gone. So this kind of raises questions like, listen, what else? What else is missing, Pam? So what ultimately is going to happen is they're going to start to compare everything about this file, because this is no transparency. I don't know about y'all, but I don't trust anything that they provide. Yeah. I don't trust anything that they provide. Okay. Now, this is the same picture, but this is just another picture of the picture. As you can see, Donald Trump is here. For some reason, when they were supposed to be open and transparent, these files suddenly disappeared. Look at that. They disappeared. And what the headline says is the Department of Justice quietly deleted an image from its heavily redacted Epstein Files release, and people definitely noticed. The removed image reportedly showed photos of Donald Trump sitting inside what appeared to be Jeffrey Epstein's desk drawer. So this was pictures that was open, and you saw tons of pictures of Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump. Meanwhile, they say the pictures that Trump's DOJ released included Bill Clinton, Michael Jackson, with his kids blurred, and Bill Gates. While his followers act confused, like he was never there, his administration continues to deny, deflect, and move in ways that raise even more questions about what is being hidden. Because here's the deal. You gonna tell us that there was no pictures of Donald Trump when we have already saw these pictures? So Why are you trying to remove and hide the fact that Donald Trump was with Jeffrey Epstein? We already know this. And I believe everybody has come to the understanding that, Donald Trump could have been friends with them, but we don't know what part, if any, that Donald Trump played in anything. But the fact that they are covering this up makes you wonder, wait a minute, what actually was Donald Trump involved in? Because at this rate, this administration is going so hard to cover things up. We're wondering, what are they trying to keep us from seeing? Because you keep showing us pictures of Bill Clinton, but then they said, well, we didn't want to release the files because we didn't want to implicate innocent people. But you keep showing us Bill Clinton, but you don't show us your pictures. So people are starting to wonder, like, what in the heck is really going on here? Now, this is just a list of, the different files that's on the website, which again, Donald Trump's pictures and his name was heavily redacted when what they were supposed to do was redact the victims. We don't want to re-traumatize people that have already been traumatized. The order was to redact the victims. They're not supposed to be covering up for criminal Donald Trump. Just more information on this entire situation with this old raggedy ass administration. What do y'all think? What y'all saying in the chat? What are y'all saying in the chat with regards to this whole scandal? So Donald Trump's administration is working extremely hard to redact files that heavily or even mentions his name. It doesn't even have to be heavily. While he's talking about, and this is the crazy part is, Donald Trump is the worst damn president ever. But instead of him just owning it, just own that you're a trash ass president, he makes posts like this. Trump calls Obama one of the most divisive presidents and labels Biden the worst president in history in a new White House plaque, which is crazy because we know one person that's not in the Epstein files and wasn't hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein, and it is Obama. The real deal here is Donald Trump is jealous of Obama. He wished that he could be Obama, and he is mad because people respect and they like Obama. This man is crazy. He's a 34-time felon. And instead of fixing the issues that he said he was going to fix when he became the old felon president, he decides to spend his time on his Truth Social, just telling lie after lie after lie. This is what old Donald Trump does. Lie after lie after lie. So what is going to happen with regards to all of this stuff with regards to this administration and their lies? Like, are they going to be held accountable? Let's see what they're saying on this morning show on MS Now.
Yes, you did.
And we heard about that a lot.
If you go to Tulane, you are actually going to school below sea level.
But
And
it
the
is
fishbowl.
such a
And the
good
fishbowl,
school.
it's great school, Tulane is. So what Chris Christie just said, I'm sure the White House, the president might even Truth Social him or whatever, but that's what Republicans are saying.
Yeah.
And not as intensely as maybe Chris Christie said it, but you've seen the interviews of the people that were in the North Carolina speech on Friday night, or Pennsylvania last week, and they're all saying the same thing. We believe in President Trump, but we need him to focus on us. We can't afford our health care. We can't afford our electricity. We can't afford our rent. We can't afford our groceries. We can't afford, things aren't getting better. In fact, many are saying it's getting worse. They're talking.
Well, and I don't know if you guys watched my previous video, but when they say healthcare, groceries, this is real. I don't know if, y'all buy y'all food, or if somebody else buy it for you. But honey, listen, I have to pay for my damn insurance, and it's like $1,400 a month. Okay. Now, some people may say, dang, how many you got on there? 4, and nobody is ill, nobody is sick. I have a family plan, but $1,400 a month for healthcare is extremely high. And I want to tell y'all, 1,400, that goes from the 23 or 2,400, which what it was originally. And I said, oh, heck to the no, let me change the plan. So that is extremely high. Now, I know y'all voted for Donald Trump because hopefully none of y'all did, but people wanted things to get better. Things are not getting better. Things are getting worse. Even if you look at rents, honey, if you can buy well, you probably can't buy a house right now because the price of housing has gone up. And even renting a house is extremely unbearable. Like, it's just too much.
But, you know, I think it was a Washington Post report, talked to the guy in the concession stand. He said, you know, this used to be like a rock concert. He said, there aren't that many people here. And these items that I would try to sell for $5, people say, I don't have $5.
Yeah.
I don't have $5 anymore. It's gotten that bleak. And yet last week, one distraction after another distraction, one crazy thing after another crazy thing coming out of the White House. He didn't even talk about Susie Wiles' interview.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to hundreds of Trump rallies, many of them with you, Lemire. The idea that people are standing outside still waiting to go in and giving him a grade of a C or a D on the economy, when that was the issue that always he had such a stronghold in the minds of voters that he was the businessman who could turn it around and make it better. I think once you pierce that veil and then bring in the Epstein part of it as well, which continues to make people question, okay, I'm not going to take him just at face value. Just because the president says it doesn't mean it's true. I think that all of that leads to that MAGA base that was so solid beginning to at least question, and then certainly independence beginning to crumble and fall away. That's what the polling trend would show us.
Right.
And so I think it's why I hear from so many Republican lawmakers privately, yes, because they are not as unencumbered as Chris Christie sitting on this week, but being able to say that they hear from their constituents that they're not feeling any better, and they know that it's going to be a tough year for them. And it also feels like on Capitol Hill, lawmakers are starting to realize that the Trump era is ending. Someone new will take.
Listen, the Trump era has ended. I mean, it has ended before it really picked up, because Donald Trump did the same thing he did last time. I don't understand why people have such short memory spans. Like, how and why would you think that Donald Trump would come in and do anything different than he did last time? Like, come on, people. This man wanted to become president to do exactly what he did. Steal, because I mean, there's information out there that, you know, they have paid companies millions of dollars. I mean, companies that were created today and were able to submit. Actually, they didn't even submit a bid. A company, I'll just give you an example, and I did a video about this. A company was set up today. Tomorrow, they got like 160 million contract with the federal government. Let me explain it to you all, because I never had a contract with the federal government, but I signed up to do business with the federal government. And if any of y'all know how that works, you don't just sign up today. And when I say sign up today, I mean the company was created one day before they got like $160 million contract. That was all a scam. They tried to look for this company, and they found that the company circled back to somebody's husband that was married to somebody in Donald Trump administration. I did a video on it. The only thing Donald Trump is doing is stealing money and try to continue to enrich his family. He don't care about the people that don't got a job. He don't care about the people who can't afford their rent. He don't give a damn about the people who cannot buy food. Donald Trump is only concerned about himself. And I really, really wish that people would have really thought about this before they went out and voted for this idiot, and then didn't vote at all. Because right now, we are in the thick of it, and I'm sorry to be the one to bring it to y'all. It is not going to get any worse. So, honey, if you cannot find a job, you better get on social media or something and figure it out as far as what it is you're going to do. Because I used to have a staffing agency, so I'm always like looking, up jobs, just because I did it for so long that it's kind of like, normal for me to just search and see like what jobs are out there. And I will be happy to tell you ain't nothing out there. Now, before Donald Trump brought his raggedy, incompetent administration, there were some things out there, but now the things that were out there now are gone. Now, one of the jobs, that you could always like apply for, and was known to be a very stable job was the federal government. And I kind of explained to y'all my situation with that. I told you that I worked for the federal government several times. In this last time, I went back to work for the federal government. But when Donald Trump brought his administration on, it just seemed to not be something that I wanted to deal with anymore because it seemed unstable. Now, if I wanted to, work for an unstable company, I probably wouldn't have picked the federal government. But we're at, a very, difficult time period because rents are extremely high. Now, let me kind of explain to y'all my story. Back about 2 years ago, I rented a house. And at the time, like I had only been in Georgia since 2019. So I kind of wanted to find a neighborhood that I like. I found a neighborhood I like. So I rented that house, had been there for about 3 years or something like that. I don't know, maybe even 4. It seemed like I was there forever. Now they were going to sell that house. And I was the first, they asked me, but baby, I didn't know that the house was going to be like $700,000. I'm like, wait a minute. When we moved in that neighborhood, the properties were like 4 something. And you telling me in 3 years or so, they went from 4 to 7. I'm like, oh no, this is not going to be the house for me because, that was not my price point. So I ended up moving. I said, you know what? I don't want to rush myself. I want to find something that I like, but I want to give myself time. So I said, you know what? I'm going to rent it. I'm going to get in an apartment because one thing I do like about apartments, if you break the lease, you only, you pay like 60 days or something. It's really like you do pay a fee, but you don't have to worry about nobody taking you to court or anything like that. My apartment is the same amount that I was paying in rent and it's much smaller. So the rent is not cheap. Nothing good is happening with Donald Trump. Nothing good. So imagine living in a regular apartment. Like, it's gated, but other than that, they take your trash. You can sit your trash out in the hallway, but $3,000 for a damn apartment. I don't know, what type of jobs y'all have, but $3,000 was, I think, in all honesty, my house was 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, 2-car garage, living room, dining room, and I didn't even pay $3,000. Now that I'm thinking, moving an apartment is $3,000. Now, I also think too, with the house that I was living in, the owner of that house wasn't like a money hungry person. So they didn't make my rent go up like every year. It probably went up $60. They also appreciated that, I kept the house good. It was, I kept it up and I paid on time. So I didn't really experience what everybody else was experiencing when everybody's rent was going up because the people that owned that property, they wasn't really hard up for money like that. So I think I had a good situation there. Cause like I said, when I moved in my apartment, I'm like, damn, I'm paying $3,000. I didn't even pay $3,000 for a 4-bedroom, 3 full bath house. And now I don't even, this is real small. And now I'm paying more. So that kind of give you an example of how we are not any better under Donald Trump. In fact, we are worse off. So listen, I don't know what y'all suspected, but even the people who voted for Donald Trump is like, wait a minute, this is not what I thought, okay? And it's not.
That mantle, whether it's J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio, whatever. And I think they're realizing that their votes, as Thomas Massey, your colleague, has reminded them, will outlast this moment. And what do they want those votes to say? It's not on everything, but any break is notable. And right now, again, just massive fear out there, massive fear among Republicans, among the chattering classes on the right, that the Republicans are in line to get.
And also, let's just talk about bills. Like I told you, my rent is $3,000. That's $3,000. That's just for rent. Okay, that don't include your, your electric and I only have electric, so I don't have gas. I don't include your electric. It does not include your internet. But then healthcare. So that's 3,000. Okay. That's for your rent. And then my healthcare is about 1,400. That's 4,400 for two bills. We are no better under Donald Trump than we were with Donald called him Sleepy Joe. We could have just kept Sleepy Joe to me.
Rounded next year. And you have a president who, as Maggie Haberman said, he's always thinking about the next 5 minutes. He wants to survive the next 5 minutes. That's how he's lived since, the mid-1970s when he was in fights with tabloids all the time. And here you have a president that is not committed to passing anything through Congress. He refuses to work in a meaningful way with Democrats. Maybe that'll change. Let's hope that changes. But right now, all he can do is, threaten war, try to do things on the international stage, try to arrest people through the Justice Department, tweet things out. It's all these immediate things, all of them sort of undermining his standing with working right now economically.
Yeah, and we've been talking about this for some time now, just how out of touch he appears with what the American people, his own voters, what they want him to focus on. And he's acting with like this really frenzied activity about his legacy and putting his name on things and the focus on foreign policy. And look, the focus, he's suddenly acting like a president who's in his final 6 months in office, right? This is what we normally see second-term presidents do at the very end. They can focus on foreign policy because they have more authority there.
Which is another problem. We have a president that's concerned about everything that's happening in another country while people in the United States of America are suffering. This man has sent money to Argentina. They said that the money that this idiot sent over to Argentina would have been more than enough for the ACA. Now, if y'all don't know what the ACA is, that is the Affordable Care Act. And that is generally where people get their insurance from if they don't have any. I'll give you an example. Let's say you were working at your job, you no longer work there. So now you don't have health care. Generally, COBRA it's a little high on the high side, but what I've been told is generally sometimes it may be a little bit cheaper than some other healthcare plans. Because before I went and accepted the, COBRA, I was going to look into just independent. And he said, you know what, it's going to be cheaper. Your best option would probably be to exhaust your COBRA first and then, circle back to me, after that's exhausted. But Donald Trump has focused on everything outside of the people that actually voted for him.
They don't need Congress. They probably lost Congress after their second midterms. So therefore, that's what they're mindful of their legacy and going forward. It's so shocking to see this president right now, who a few months ago looked like a steamroller and was getting everything he wanted done on his agenda. That's all gone. And I think we are seeing, to Allie's point, Republicans for the first time.
Let me answer that. Yes, ma'am. Or is it sir? I'm so sorry. Somebody said COBRA is high as hell. It is. But for my situation, I literally just went with it because I wasn't sure about what was going to happen with this ACA thing, the Affordable Care Act. So it was either pay for that. And I don't know what this, the ACA, I've never had it. So I didn't want to risk losing that and not knowing what this is. Now, what I said I was going to do is see what it does with this ACA, because people have been complaining about their premiums, increasing. So I said, do I want to pay the $1,400 for here, or do I want to do the ACA? So I said, I'll just stick with what I know. At least I know, for the plan that I have, they generally cover everything with the exception of, since I went down, I do have I think it's a $10 copay, and you're restricted to 11 visits a calendar year. Now that is the restriction. However, if you go over, they pay less. So I said, listen, we got to keep it to the 11. And generally, I'm not going to the doctor every day anyways. I did have a little hiccup though, because I went to the emergency. I had got some food poisoning, which I should have checked before I went, because what I learned, when you go to the emergency, at least with this new plan that I have, you have to pay $1,400 deductible. So that ain't gonna never happen again. But I kind of went with that plan strictly because I didn't know what was going to happen with this Affordable Care Act thing. So I said, let me just go with this COBRA, because with the COBRA, I can cancel. I think they said I got to give them 30-day notice. I can cancel. And I said, I'm going to maybe check out this ACA to see how it works. I just don't want to have to go to the doctor and then they tell me I got to pay 60% of the bill. I don't want to do that. So if I can go to the doctor and just pay one amount and maybe pay a mild copay, I'm okay with that. I just don't like it when you go to the doctor and they say, oh, you got to pay 30% of the bill. I don't like stuff like that. So I'll see what the ACA does after, maybe in January, because now they're saying they have the votes that they need to secure a lower payment for everybody. I just didn't want to be stuck jumping on the bandwagon of something that I just wasn't familiar with.
I'm looking beyond him and sort of suggesting, well, he's acting like a lame duck.
He used to be aspirational to, I would say, members of his base and a lot of working class Americans who felt left out, who felt left behind.
Right.
And now they're still left behind, and he's having really fancy parties at Mar-a-Lago and many other things.
And I also, just one other thing that he does, and that makes him less aspirational. We're starting to get reports, Congressman, from the New York Times, the Washington Post, others, where there's a Wall Street Journal starting to figure out exactly how much money he and his family are accumulating. You know, we heard those stories for 6 months, and it will tell you.
Now, when I spoke about this, Donald Trump is only concerned about himself. Donald Trump has amassed a bunch of money, and we're not talking about $1 million or $2 million. Donald Trump has made billions of dollars, and I'm not saying even 1 or 2 is a large amount. What they're talking about right now is they're starting to look into exactly how much money has Donald Trump and his family made. This guy doesn't give a damn about the economy or anybody. He only cares about himself. What's the term for that? A grifter. He only cares about what he can get from being president. And people say, oh, Donald Trump is not taking a salary. Donald Trump is not taking a salary. I mean, he shouldn't, because all the money he stole and all the money that his family have stole. What about the jet that Donald Trump was gifted from? It was some other country. Donald Trump is a grifter. He only cares about himself. He only wanted to be the president so he can continue to steal like he did in his last term.
As for us, we're like, well, we'll see how this all shakes out. Right now, we were focused more on immigrants. We were focused more on the heinous things that were happening there. There are a lot of the rule of law and attitudes. Just kind of, let's see how this shakes out. Well, the way it's shaken out now, if you look at the Wall Street Journal, is, they're racking in billions and billions of dollars. And I'm still hearing, some MAGA media types go, oh, what about Hunter Biden? Hunter Biden,
what?
They're talking about $3 million, and maybe he got a little bit of that. We're talking is raked in by the families with his crypto coin and everything else. I bring that up to say, first of all, there aren't laws stopping that. There should be, but there aren't. So, okay, if you want that to be your legacy, be your legacy. I'm bringing it up, though, because that hurts him with his base. He's not aspirational when he does that. He's just another politician in the swamp, getting rich, richer than any other person in the swamp has ever gotten.
Donald Trump is one of the presidents he's gotten the richest. I mean, I don't know sometimes Google doesn't have the right numbers, but let's just see what Google says. How much has Donald Trump? I'm going to look. I mean, it's not going to have the correct information, but I mean, we can definitely look at it. If I look here, and this could be incorrect. Like I said, a lot of times when we search, stuff online, it's not exactly correct. But what it says is that Donald Trump, it says as of November 5th, the most profitable presidency It says, but since returning to Oval Office, his wealth has skyrocketed, climbing to a record 7.3 billion, up from 4.3. So let's just look at this. And like I said, sometimes the numbers are not always as accurate as they, project. But we know that he's definitely has made way more money. So this is where I'm getting it from. Again, it's not always, as accurate as they report, but it does say that he made about $3 billion. And I think I kind of read that somewhere else. But I guess the point that, I'm trying to prove here is Donald Trump has made a huge fortune since being in office, and people are starving, losing their jobs. And, some people will say, oh, go find another job. It doesn't work like that. I mean, if anybody's have ever looked for a job, and honestly, guys, it doesn't even have to do with your credentials. Like, looking for a job is a job. It's a lot of work. And I feel like right now, the jobs are just not there. Like, you literally are going to have to create something for yourself to be able to, sustain. Obviously, if you're looking for a job, continue to look for a job. But it's not, with this economy and the way that everything is going, it's just not going to be easy. So, when people say, you're lazy, you just don't want to work, I don't believe that's necessarily true. I mean, I know a few people that are looking to get into other jobs, and a few of them actually got into law enforcement because they were like, at this point, I just want to do something stable. I am tired of going through the situation with having a job, not having a job. And I'm like, hey, if you want to be in law enforcement, go for it. But it's just not easy. The economy is terrible. And unfortunately, we have a crazy president who just does not acknowledge where we are as a world. Trump whole reason for getting into politics. Yes, absolutely. And the crazy part about it is, like, I'm not heavily invested in politics, but I've learned to follow it. So at least I know what's going on. But the people that voted for him, that really thought that he gave a FUCK, now, not saying that any of these politicians care, but if I had to pick, he would be the one that absolutely didn't give a damn. And frankly, when I think about Donald Trump, this is what I think. Donald Trump never really had to work for anything. Everything was given to him. So imagine living a world where you truly never had to work for anything. It was given to you. So if you look at it like that, why would he know how it is to struggle and have a job, to not be able to pay this, to not be able to pay that, when he's never experienced it? So I'm like, okay, well, that makes sense. He's never went through this. His father pretty much gave him everything. He inherited wealth. Therefore, he had wealth. So he was able to take his money and create other businesses. The dude never had any common sense, because I believe one of his professors said that Donald Trump was the dumbest person that he ever had in his class. So his entire reason for getting into politics is just like you said, Real Spill 8626. It was for power and money. It was strictly for power and money. He had no interest in helping anybody. The only person that Donald Trump is concerned about is himself. And during this, campaign, obviously he was concerned about his donors because he needed to get the money. And a lot of the policies that he's making, it works with these billionaires, not us regular, everyday, hardworking people. None of those policies work for us. Exactly. That's why I don't understand how poor white people support him. Well, it's not even just the poor white people, it's the poor Black people. Because listen, I know somebody personally, and personally know this person. This person doesn't have a job, hasn't worked a job. This person gets like disability. They get like everything free that you can get from the government, and they voted for Donald Trump. And I said, why would you vote for Donald Trump when you get like, what is that thing called? It's like rent assistance or something where they pay for your rent. I said, you get that. And he says that you got 2 more years. I said, so why would you vote for somebody who doesn't even care about people to get public assistance. And I'm just asking this person, and they really had no answer. So I started to think that Trump supporters are just miserable people who really just don't like themselves. Because listen, if I qualify for food stamps, I will get it and be glad that I got it, because sometimes you're up and sometimes you're down. So if I qualify for food stamps, I will be getting my food stamps. Okay. So I asked this person, I said, so if you qualify for food stamps and, during the time where people couldn't get their food stamps, I said, how do you feel about that? I said, you qualify for it and now you can't get it because you voted for Donald Trump. And the person says, oh, well, I'm not going to complain because it's free anyway. Yeah, it is free, but you qualify for it. So it's just, I don't know. Donald Trump supporters are a little different. They're very, very different. I can't explain it myself. I don't understand why anybody would vote for him, regardless of the race, because it's not just, the poor white people, it's poor black people, although they kind of want to make it seem like it's just black people, but it's both. Donald Trump had people from every race voting for him. I mean, think about the Mexican people. Like, they voted for Donald Trump, got deported, came back, and it was a guy saying, oh, thank you, Donald Trump. I'm just like, you can't make this shit up. Like, and that's why, when the people were getting deported, I felt sorry for them, but not for the people that voted for Donald Trump. Like, you voted for this. Like, Donald Trump was going on campaigns talking about Mexicans and people of other races. And even if he didn't, if you have a president that talk about any race of people, that should tell you what type of person he is. So the fact that Donald Trump has talked about black people, he's talked about Mexican people, he's talked about every race but white people. So the fact that you found that acceptable, but then when he did it to you, now all of a sudden, is it a little bit different? So I don't know. I don't know why anybody voted for Donald Trump. The proof has always been in the pudding, and I would have never voted for Donald Trump. If Donald Trump was there 2 times, I just wouldn't have voted at all. And I know some people, voted for Donald Trump because they said they didn't want to vote for Kamala. Well, when I vote, this is how I look at things. You got to pick the lesser of the evil that you can probably deal with. And one thing that I did not want to deal with is a racist president, and not one that had 34 felonies against his name and then still didn't take accountability and then lied and said that it was a witch hunt when Donald Trump was convicted by a jury. So the fact that he wanted the world to think that it was a witch hunt when he really did that stuff was enough for me to know that this man was a liar and there would be no way that I could vote for him. It honestly was less about the felonies that he was convicted of and more about him not taking accountability for what he had done. Oh, definitely mentally unstable. Definitely mentally unstable. Real Spill 8624 said, trust me, I know, baby, the people who support Trump are mentally. Yeah, I think that's an understatement, because again, if I got any form of public assistance, I would get it and receive it. But the fact that you qualify for these things and then you make excuses and say, oh, well, it was just free and I'm okay with it. So you're okay with the president putting a hold on your food and now you can't eat, and now that's acceptable. And then I asked this person, I said, so tell me, why did you vote for Donald Trump? And she says, oh, because I can't stand Kamala. Well, I said, did you ever meet her before? Like, what was that like? She's like, no, I just don't like her. So it's just like, mental, people. And then you also got to think about this. Now that we know, because we know that Donald Trump is in those Epstein files, because it's all over the internet where they provide the true unedited copy, and then the one that Donald Trump's administration provided with Donald Trump's name redacted. So it makes you think, what are they hiding from us? What is really in them files that they don't want us to connect? So now I start to think that if you support Donald Trump, you are a nasty individual, because now what I'm starting to think about Donald Trump is that he did some really nasty things to possibly children, because the fact that you guys are working overtime to cover up stuff is making me extremely uncomfortable. So if you voted for Donald Trump and you are not making a, drawn to this conclusion that, hey, something is wrong here, and that you still think that is okay, yeah, I don't think I like you, because it's given that you are weird, okay? There's a lot of things that you can do that I don't care about, but unfortunately, when it comes to children, when it comes to elderly, and people that may be mentally, can't speak up for themselves, vulnerable individuals that could have been taken advantage of, when you could have been a part of that, yeah, I think you are scum of the earth. And I believe that Donald Trump has done something, or maybe it's just not laid out what he did, but I think he's in these Epstein files enough that would make us uncomfortable and maybe make us feel that he potentially did something. And I believe that is what they're trying to cover up, because we do have a brain, just like we're able to see, hey, this file has Donald Trump's name in it. This file has Donald Trump's name removed. We're not dumb, right? We're able to make that distinction. We're also able to make the distinction to say, hold on, this isn't adding up. The fact that they're working overtime to remove Donald Trump's name, they should be working overtime to remove the victim's name. If Donald Trump did nothing, what the hell is he so afraid about? So if you supported Donald Trump and you don't think that there's something wrong with that, it makes me wonder about you. Okay. Now I'll see y'all in the next video. Take care.